Welcome back to Trench Talk. I'm your host, Koyos. I'm here joined by a very special guest today, and I'm going to let him introduce himself a little bit.
Hi, my name is BigTrout. I'm one of the most interesting traders in the space as of the year 2026, according to crypto Twitter. I've been trading options and perps for a number of years. I've been in financial markets for a long time, and I've recently kind of gone on an explosive tear, I guess. So, yeah, that's a little bit about me.
That's cool. That's cool. I mean, yeah, you've been killing it lately. Loving the content as well. So super amazing. So
Thank you.
for the people who are kind of just discovering you, how would you describe yourself as a trader?
Yeah, so kind of like I said, I trade a lot of options and perps.
Hmm.
I've been dabbling in crypto markets since kind of passively since 2017, but more or
Hmm.
less really got into it around the 2020 cycle. And then I started trading commodities and securities when I was 19. Yeah, so I've been around the ship for a while. Originally, I was pretty influenced getting into markets itself just from my family, them being in real estate and FX exchange. I've definitely been around the ropes and the barn for a
Yeah.
while, as young as I am, but we've seen a lot of shit.
Yeah. You've been around for a few cycles. I started crypto in I want to say mid to late 2022. This was like my this was my senior year of college. It was an app called Steppen. I don't know if
Yep,
yeah, it was with
I
that
remember
one. I
that.
mean, I obviously just NFTs in general and stuff like that, but that was the kind of the one I really started getting into in the beginning. But and then I got back into it a little bit more seriously. I took a break obviously after the crash and everything, and then got back into it seriously. Say like mid 2024. But yeah, so how did you first get into crypto? Like, what kind of drew you into crypto in the first place, if you remember?
Sure. Yeah, good question. So I was, oh God, I gotta think. I would have been 15, maybe
Mm.
15, I think. And I was actually designing graphics for a gentleman in the Call of Duty community. So I used
Oh,
to
nice.
play Call of Duty wagers and tournaments, and then I was just kind of known there. And then I kind of just like the kid went to pay one day, and instead of paying with PayPal, he was like, "Hey, would you take this ETH?" And I was like,
Mm.
I've heard of it, but I don't really know what the fuck it was. So I got the ETH, and then I think I like sold it. I don't think I did much of it. I think I sold it initially, and then I think I bought some back like shortly after because I was like, okay, what the fuck is this thing?
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's kind of how I got into it, and then I really started buying stuff like 2020, kind of like I said before, like that's when I really got into it. I started
Hmm.
just buying random shit like Bitcoin, ETH, whatever. Down the road, I owned BNB as well. I kind of just played around with memes, and I made a lot of money doing it. Like me and my best friends actually, we we bought a shit ton of Safe Moon before it rugged,
Oh my
and we
god.
sold we sold, or at least I did. I sold like right before it topped, just because like it was a lot of money. Like I think I put $800 into it, and I came up with like 22 grand or
Oh
something like
wow,
that.
nice.
And then I flipped more like in like Elongate and a couple other of these stupid little meme coins. So that's how I really got like super into it. Yeah, and then 3 years ago, I quit my job and I just started full-time trading. Met a lot of smart people, used some connections I had, and just learned a lot quick and really got super into the options and perp side of things and finding new like good startups and whatever to invest in. And
Yeah.
kind of just fucking
Snowballed from there.
yeah, like just everything kind of just worked. Like, I was a pretty anonymous guy on the internet for the most part for a long time. Like I had multiple Twitters, multiple different aliases. And yeah, and then just like kind of last October when I called the big crash before everybody, that's kind of how I blew up and got super famous and
Yeah.
stuff. And yeah, man,
Yeah.
just trading a lot of options and perps now, just fucking living life, I guess.
I mean that's amazing, man. And I know for like a lot of traders out there, that's the ideal job is to go full-time trading, and it's not easy for a
Mhm.
lot of people. Was there like a specific moment for you where you knew that you wanted to just take it fully seriously and just go, full-time trading? Or was it just kind of, you saw the profit, was it like a strategy or something like that that you were kind of was you got to a certain point?
From a young age, I was always interested in investing. For the trading aspect, I really liked how much money you could be profitable with, just kind of through financial markets as a whole. Like I mean, the meme coin thing, making fast money with that's cool. But what really interested me was 2018 before the big VIX blow up. There's a gentleman I had been speaking to. He actually like retired off that crash, but we were kind of studying just vol metrics together and just how financial markets worked, and we're looking for kind of just cracks in the sector of trade fi markets because he was super fixated on the fact that there'd be like a crash 10 years after 2008. So we were dabbling in this idea of how profitable like high IV can be. And he had this thesis that leverage ETFs would blow up. And sure enough, in February of 2018, they blew up. Like the
Mm,
VIX ETFs blew up, and there's that Volmageddon crash, right? So basically, the leverage ETFs crashed, and they had to hedge and buy a bunch of VIX futures. So
it's,
that was how I really got like super into it and super like engaged. That really motivated me for like down the road when I was finally legal to like start really trading that shit and getting into it. And I've been fixated. I mean, I'm not sure if you've seen, but I've wrote a couple threads about the VIX and who 50 Cent is, like the big VIX whale, and when he buys, the market's usually ready to crash. And it's actually a hedge fund out of the UK called Ruffer,
oh, okay.
but they're very good at hedging the VIX. I mean, I've been through the 2020 crash, 2022. I went through the tariff crash, and
Yeah.
I've profited massively off just hedging the VIX. That's like really how I got super motivated to get into the market for sure. Like just super engaged with it all. So yeah, I hope that answers that.
Yeah, no, it does. It definitely does. I've been trading, I mean, obviously I got into back into the space with the memes in 2024. But for the past, like, I'd say year and a half, I've been taking perps pretty seriously, and
Right.
it's a whole different ball game, with
Hmm.
strategy and learning. Obviously, all the different TA and everything like that. But I mean, honestly, I mean, obviously making money is important, but when you're right early on something, it's a whole different feeling. So I'm sure for that guy, like you were just talking about with the big crash and everything like that, I mean, it's insane feelings. So I mean, I hope I get to experience that one day as well. So,
Hmm.
but it's very cool. What would you say is like kind of the biggest mistake you made when you first started developing as a trader, and kind of how'd you grow from that?
That's a great question. Get off lower time frames. Like I think I see a lot of traders always post like a 15-minute, 30-minute chart, but also using like the wrong indicators, and I think reading the fucking news and whatever else too much.
Yeah,
The news stuff, you have to be careful of who you're reading from and kind of what's it about. Like, I'll be honest, if you had shorted or bought every YouTube video you saw, like on the yen carry trade unwind, or why bond yields are blowing up, like the yield curve uninverting, or if you listen to CNBC every morning,
hmm,
chances are, I guarantee, if you inverse whatever the fuck's going on there, you're probably going to be more profitable. I think the news puts too much fear into low capital, vulnerable traders because they're like, oh my God, like this analyst who called one thing right once is saying that, hey,
yeah,
there might be some volatility coming up, whatever. And chances are, I mean, like the market can be way more irrational than most people can withstand, like it can go up and up and up, regardless if it looks bubble-esque or there's some weird economic data coming in. Regardless, like, 9 times out of the 10, the chart's going to keep going up and to the right. It takes a real smart person to be able to call a top and actually know what to look for. So I would
yeah,
say, just to summarize that, stop reading the news so much. And if you're going to read news, be careful who it's coming from and what's it about. Don't oversize shit. A lot of kids on here are trading with $1,000, maybe $5,000 accounts. I will say this: when I was first starting out, I wouldn't full port everything. Well, actually, that's a lie. I've definitely blown up an account while starting off, just full porting. But if I had to say what you should do now, if you start with $1,000 trading account, maybe do like $100 positions or something like
hmm,
that, and just learn on finding good support and execution levels. You got to figure out your execution. Like that's huge.
hmm,
Like a lot of people long into resistance, or a lot of people blindly try to catch falling knives. I think you have to really wait on something for some foundation or things to align to really coordinate your execution. Like
yeah,
you gotta know your proper VWAPs, maybe some moving averages. If I had to say indicator wise what not to use, I would not use the RSI or MACD. I think those are terrible
hmm,
indicators. They're
hmm,
very old. Those were built around the 80s and 90s when volume was a lot slower than it is now. Markets are very automated and move very fast now. I
yeah,
think something like TPO, VWAP, learning to read order books and deltas. If you're going to be an options trader, understand IV and all your Greeks for your options contracts.
hmm, hmm,
That's important. So yeah, and then I don't know if we're talking Bitcoin recommendations. The asset's mechanical, so when you get big 20, 30, 40% sell-offs, depending what part of the cycle you're in, you usually long that. Bear markets, it usually trends higher, even though it usually makes a capitulation low. Bitcoin and bull markets usually goes through multiple uptrends when it gets it gets 2 to 3 20% corrections, maybe 1 to 2 30%, and then 1 to 2 40%ers. So the 365 day VWAP's important, 90-day
Yeah.
VWAP's important, 7 and 30-day. Those are tips I would give out.
Yeah, no, that's all amazing. Those all really, really good tips. I've talked to a few
Yeah,
different traders too about how they kind of set up their strategies, what they look up, or what they're looking at when they first pull up the charts and anything like that. Now I've gotten a mix.
sure.
Even in my group, there are traders that overly use indicators or have a bunch of different things, and then obviously there's some
Mhm.
that are very simple with it. Where do you kind of lie, in that spectrum?
Yeah, I kind of I think we're on the same page when I say this. I think people use too many
Too
indicators.
many,
Personally,
yeah,
I think two people have too much shit on the screen. Like I kind of just touched on this with the MACD and RSI, but they don't work. Our RSI can say underbought or oversold for God knows how long, and the asset can keep going that direction. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
If you had sold RSI overbought on Bitcoin or the SPX for the last couple of years, right? You probably would have missed huge rallies.
yeah.
And I think too, some people just try to do too much, especially with the AI stuff. I think people are just trying to make too much weird shit and overcomplicate things.
Mm,
You can get away with trading these markets. I mean, if I was to say you wanted to trade the SPX full time, fucking buy VS3D, learn how dealer positioning works. You're gonna find support and resistance like no tomorrow. Just use the advanced decline index, the tick for
yep,
days when you should be bullish or bearish. Maybe throw on a VWAP, a couple moving averages. That's that. Bitcoin, study USDD dominance, study the Bitfinex long rate, and those VWAPs I listed earlier. Just watch that. People really, I think, tried to do too much.
mm,
Like if you watch my YouTube videos, I don't have much shit on the screen. I have a couple moving averages
yeah.
and
You
some
don't have
breadth
you don't have too much.
indicators. Yeah, I pull up the VIX here and there, and you just don't need it. I think it's I think it misdirects people a lot more than it does help, you know?
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. I think that's somewhat of a mistake I made too in the beginning. I feel like a lot of people when they see a bunch of stuff on the screen, they instantly think you're smart. You know what I mean? But
Yes.
it's
Yes.
exactly kind of almost the opposite sometimes. So, but yeah, I totally
Yeah,
understand where you're coming from.
and it's the same shit too when you see some of those accounts posting unusual options flow, or you see these people just random gex lines on the screen. They have no fucking clue what it means.
Yeah.
And it's like you really have to take time to sit through a course with like a market maker or something and actually understand what you're looking at. Otherwise,
Hmm.
you're just gonna get rinsed, you know. And it's
Yeah.
like, do you remember when Beyond Meat or whatever that stock just flew up
Yeah.
randomly that one week?
Beyond me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was high IV contracts and someone found it and just did a quick squeeze. But then you
Hmm.
had all retail piling on top of that saying, "Oh my god, this thing's going to $20 or whatever." I didn't even think it went over 10. And then sure enough, it went back down to like $1 or whatever it was, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but it's shit like that that'll get you wrecked if you FOMO into dog shit, and you don't know what you're looking at or why this is happening at a certain time. It's the same thing with the GameStop squeeze. It was the same thing. It was high IV gamma squeeze,
Yep.
right? But there was a specific coordinated timing to do that, right? It's not
Yeah.
going to happen every year. Ryan Cohen is not going to squeeze your stock every year, right? So
Exactly,
I don't know.
exactly. Yeah, you touched on a lot of great points there, and I do want to kind of follow up on that with leverage. A lot of
Sure.
I mean, obviously, I come from kind of the meme coin kind of sector more mostly before I started getting into perps. And I know a lot of these guys jump into it with the mindset of high lev, because they're used to that kind of fast paced degen mindset. But I'm assuming you're a big proponent on using less leverage, or
Yeah, so um one of the first times I actually got noticed was in 2024 when I pulled off a crazy 80x long on Bitcoin. So, gonna be completely transparent. I've always said to people verbally, never over leverage, turn the leverage slider down,
Mhm.
don't risk 10 or 1% of your port, depending what size it is. Like be conservative, right? Because God forbid there's a 10-10 blow up again, or there's some
Yeah,
wipeout, or someone wants to click the fucking fat finger. If you don't have a stop loss, you're on high leverage, you're just gonna get rinsed, right? So I
mhm.
always tell people low leverage for sure. Now, me knowing what I know and just being around a long time and just knowing some of the metrics and how to trade kind of properly. I'll be honest, once in a blue moon, even recently, I trade high leverage sometimes and it's fine. I'm not saying I sit on that position for more than, a couple days or weeks now, but there is times where you can totally get away with it. You just have to be really careful.
Hmm.
I'm not saying everyone at home should be doing that. I don't believe in making fast money. I don't think that's right. I don't think that's how markets work. But there is times where you can definitely get away with it. I did it on Hype. I've done it on Bitcoin 100 plus fucking times. I've done it on did it on Strike the other week, or sorry, Stretch. Pardon me.
Stretch, yeah.
You can totally get away with high leverage. It's just you have to know the timing. In a bull market, I'll be honest, if you know how to time those 20-30% corrections, you know, like where there's a good composite, like a TPO composite, or you know there's a good VWAP spot, or there's a thick order book in one section, like
Hmm.
I totally think you can scalp with it. Absolutely. But I think overall you should be aiming for 20, 30, 50% returns on a low leverage position rather than trying to get 1 or 200 or 300% return positions. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100.
Like I have literally tripled an account probably in a couple weeks just by doing 30, 50% scalps and then repositioning on something else. And I think
Nice.
people should just be taking profits and rotating and finding new spots to execute at. You know, I don't think you should only trade Amazon, only trade Bitcoin. I think people sit too much in one area. You have to keep looking around for different trades. And there's always one to take. There's 365 days a year. You don't have to trade every day, but there's always a different trade to take. You know, you don't have to sit in one position forever. So, um,
That's a great reminder. That's something I need to work on as well too.
yeah.
I'm still new to the sense where I'm still figuring out, what's my best strategy, so to say. But yeah, I think you're definitely on point with just there's so many trades you can take. You don't always have to stick in one,
Yeah.
however long and stuff. Are you trading a lot of
Yeah.
stocks and equities now? Obviously I know we've had a lot of hype bringing on chain or tokenized
Mhm.
stocks and trade XYZ. Have you been focused on that as well?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
the MU trade the other day we did when they reported earnings, I nailed the
Yeah.
bottom. I
Oh,
posted a tweet of it, but I
nice.
literally posted the exact dollar it was going to bounce at, and it bounced right into 1250. So,
Oh, that's huge. That's
and then we caught
huge.
the short as well. So yeah, I trade a shit ton of options on equities and stocks.
Nice.
I trade a lot of perpetual margin as well. So
Perfect.
I'm going to be completely honest.
Mhm.
There's certain sectors I don't pay attention to. I don't do healthcare. I don't do pharma. I don't do robotics.
No, that's very
Um,
fair.
I don't know enough about the space. I don't know someone who's super into it. I don't know someone who knows a lot about it. I like to stay with what I'm familiar with. Right now it's tech, memory, Bitcoin,
Mm.
the S&P 500, just generic organic stuff, but it works and I make a lot of money
Yeah.
doing it. And
I mean, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's your bread and butter.
yeah, I don't know. It's just not something I'm knowledgeable in. That's all.
Totally fair. I totally get that. Now, I know you just touched recently too. Obviously you said your big trade, I think, was the crash one. Can you walk me through, how you got to that? I think you said it was the one in, what is it, 2022 or before that?
The 2018 one was
2018.
a leverage ETF blow up. That was Volmageddon. So that was a little different.
Mm-hmm.
The most recent one that got really popular for Colin was October's crypto crash last year, and
Mm.
like the 1010 event, and
Yeah.
then fucking the tariff crash when Trump got inaugurated. So those two were the most recent where I really got some pep for, as well as saying the S&P earlier this year is going to stop at 7,000 and correct. The best one I've done in recent times by far was that Trump tariff crash in it was March or April or whatever. But what had happened was, so there's some liquidity theories about why the S&P goes through corrections or uptrends in certain parts of every year, right? So midterm years, specifically like we're in right now, usually there's like a correction at the start of the year, which we got, and then there's usually one at the end of the year. And that's just like timing it is one thing, but I think when you just look at certain options positioning, or you look at certain vol metrics, or just certain mechanics in the market going on at that time, like you kind of know what to look for
Yeah.
when you've studied it for a long time. So the correction at the start of the year, that was easy to call. I mean, that was a 700-point drop or whatever. But the tariff crash for me was the biggest I've done recently. So the whale I talked about earlier, named 50 Cent,
Mm-hmm.
was buying a shit ton of VIX contracts, like far out of the money VIX contracts, and he was kind of doing it from like December for January, February, and March strikes. And I was watching it because these were huge positions, and sure enough, he was just bidding like 30 VIX, 30 VIX, 30 VIX, and then he started buying like 50 VIX, 50 VIX, 50 VIX, and I go,
Mm.
okay, if we're gonna go for a 50 VIX here, like this thing's gonna take a hit. And
Yeah.
sure enough, I mean, the thing dropped like 1,300 points or whatever, right? So I waited till like February, I think, to load my contracts. But the entire time I was watching the VIX kind of bounce between 16 to 30, 18 to 30, 18 to 25. And I was like, I kept scalping UVXY, which is a VIX ETF. And I kept just doing like 1 to 400% returns. And I did it like back to back, like I think 3 times. And then finally I loaded my big position. And then the VIX went 50 plus and the market corrected. But the VIX contracts, when I loaded that big position, they went like 2,800% or something stupid, like massive return. But that was like a hugely profitable day. And I talked about this on another podcast recently. But when you can capture that IV, like that
Mm-hmm.
implied volatility, those contracts, if you time it right, you can make a shit ton of money. I'm not saying it's for everyone, but you can really, 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 really capture money like
Yeah.
fast. There's times of the cycles to be long, there's times to be short, and it's all part of trading, right? You don't stay fixated one direction, but just knowing what to spot and look for at those times. I mean, anyone can do it. Like you can do it from your home, you can do it from being on the floor of the CBOE. It doesn't matter. But like you just, I don't know. There's times to be bearish, times to be bullish, and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
sure enough,
100%.
I got a little bit rinsed on the reversal up in the tariff market, but after that, I made back any loss I made and just kept hedging upside for a while. But that
Yeah.
was probably the craziest crash profit I've had personally.
I mean, that's amazing. It's very influential to even just listen to. So I mean, it's pretty cool. It's very very cool. Congratulations on the trade as well. So that's
Thanks,
really
man.
really
Thanks.
amazing. Really really amazing. What do you do to kind of avoid, over trading, and like how do you kind of handle your risk management on like a normal day?
Sure. So, full transparency here. Bitcoin, cryptos, and stuff, I want to say I trade it maybe 1 to 4 times a month.
Yeah.
Some of these guys, they fire up the prop accounts and they're going like, multi-day, multi-week trades, whatever. I barely touch crypto. Like when it's a bull market and stuff, you kind of just open a long position at whatever, early bull market, late bear market low you get. And like, you just sit on the long, right? Like if you want to scalp, the odd short when it's correction time or whatever, or maybe punt a new long somewhere, like great.
Mm-hmm.
I think people overtrade way too much on crypto because the asset's mechanical. It only goes up and down so much. It makes multiple bear and bull flags. Like that stuff I trade like literally a couple times a month and that's it. I might post a chart, doesn't mean I'm actually
In the
actively
trade.
in the trade
Yeah.
or I might just have the position left open. I think people try to do too much and people try to make fast money. I said this earlier when we were talking, but people just try to make fast money. Like you have to accumulate and let it build, right? If you're rushing entries or rushing to make profit, I mean, you're gonna start over trading and overthinking and blow yourself up. And you just kind of keep hedging longs here and there, and then again, you just wait for some metrics to start saying, okay, well, it's time to go risk off. So I think, like sometimes I trade a few days during the week on SPX options, like for the
Mm-hmm.
SPY. Like that's fun, but man, like you need risk management, and when you start gambling and you start trying to make fast money, like I've been saying, it's just it
It
doesn't
gets
work.
bad.
It,
Yeah.
it never does, right? You're gonna keep depositing. You're gonna start posting collateral from selling things in your home on Facebook Marketplace, whatever. You're gonna fucking, you're gonna start asking for loans from people and shit, and trying to make it all back, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10 too, just passively compounding, holding spot or index yields or something like it's just better.
Yep.
Like leverage trading and stuff is not for everyone.
One
You,
hundred
you need
percent.
you need discipline. You know what you're looking at, and you need to be able to trust your indicators and have a good balls tingling gut feeling because
Exactly.
you will get rinsed. I'm serious. I've had it happen in the early days. I've had it happen once in a blue moon on a certain position. I mean, no one's perfect. You just have to be passive with your compound, and just be very particular on what you're entering and why, and make sure that there's some good foundation there laid up for your setup.
Yeah, 100%. And you're totally right. I mean, I had same issues when I started. Still have some issues here and there too with over trading.
Mhm.
It's not easy, but I mean, I've worked my way down to where I'm risking a lot less. Obviously, the goal is to be in this for the long run. So you're 100% right. I want to get into a little bit on hyperliquid. Your thoughts. I don't know if you're currently in a trade or not on hyperliquid, but for the kind of the future of it. What are your thoughts on hyperliquid?
My thoughts on Hyperliquid. I think it's extremely innovative. I've been pretty vocal on the fact that I like the decentralized protocol where you can, long stocks on chain, you can long Bitcoin on chain,
Yeah.
like it's basically a sex on chain without the KYC, right? So
Hmm.
that's fantastic. I think the EVM is awesome. I think the vaults are extremely cool. I think there's pros and cons to having all the public data on chain in terms of privacy for certain people's wallets and certain position hunting that can go on with just how
That's
much
true.
data you can pull from having a public platform like that. I think it's cool. I think it's innovative. I think it's something we've never seen before. That's gotten things right. I think the team's transparent. I think the hype fundamentals are pretty bang on. The only issue I have going forward is I personally believe they've violated a couple SEC acts, SEC laws in terms of just
Yeah.
trading tokenization on chain and some of the copying of certain securities and whatever. That's a whole topic for another time. So I'd be curious down the road if they ever got a big lawsuit or a cease and desist. But
Yeah.
with potential regulation coming forward, U.S. perps finally becoming legalized. I don't know. Maybe they'll squeak by and be fine.
That'd be fun. Yeah, that's still something to definitely keep on your mind, though. 100%.
Yeah. The only other thing I really think of is just DeFi and coding being how it is and whatever. I just wonder if one day there'll be like a weird bridge exploit or some flaw in the system, right? Like it'd suck to see billions of millions of dollars of money lost. I
Yeah.
know too, like they had some DPRK members launder through their exchange and nothing was really done about it. And then,
Yeah.
but for some reason, if you're in certain parts of the US, you just get blacklisted from trading on the platform. So I don't know. There's a couple flags that have definitely came up where I'm like, whoa. But I don't know. I've also talked to team members directly. I was just on a call the other day with some. So I
Nice.
I trust them. Like I do trust them as people.
Hmm.
It's just on-chain crypto has had a reputation that's not always been,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like we've seen some ETH protocols blow up on chain, we've seen some BNB ones blow up on chain. Like they all happen. Doesn't matter who
Hmm.
it's backed by. It's not necessarily that it's entirely the team's fault too.
Yeah.
Hyperliquid has a great team of white hats and paid bounties that find shit all the time, which is awesome. It's just one thought that's lingered where if they ever got a securities violation or a what do you call it? Sorry, like the exploit kind of thing. I said like just
Yeah.
maybe
That's
if
what.
that does happen one day. But other than that, I'm happy. I
Yeah.
like it. I love
Yeah.
the platform. I've been on it for years. Or at least a year or two now. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Same here.
so it's cool. It's really cool. But I don't know. That's my take.
Yeah. No. It's a good take. I mean, it's always good to look at both sides. I mean, regardless, I know they've done really well compared to a lot of others, starting out. I think they'll continue to do well as well, but obviously there's a lot of different factors that could come into play
Sure.
later on. And like you mentioned, exploits too. Zcash, they had a pretty big exploit, or quote unquote exploit, I should say. I made some good money on the short on that. Did you trade out, or do you have any opinions on Zcash where it's currently at?
So Zcash, the old guard. So a lot of people, especially the Solana freaks and Mert and
Yeah.
whatever, they're super super into Zcash right now. Now I'll say this: Zcash only sends and gets pumps when BTC is topped, is ready to top, or is about to correct hard. And I'm serious. If you just go overlay Zcash on BTC, it always does this weird run up at the cycle end, or right as Bitcoin's about to top, or blow face ass down. So I've always used it as an old oscillator in terms of where we're at in the cycle. I mean, I think you've probably seen this tweet, but the other day when I tweeted Zcash users prepare to be my exit liquidity,
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
thing went 50% a couple hours later, and people were like, "What the fuck did BigTrout know?" And
uh,
it was just like someone just told me that like there's an exploit and whatnot, and fucking the infinite mint thing or whatever the fuck it was,
yeah.
and I was like, okay, like there's gonna be retail spook like short this like
100%.
right, because usually when you hear things like that project usually goes to a big correction or dies. Now it did rebound pretty hard, but
Mm-hmm.
I think right now just from people like big figures just shilling the privacy meta, I think a lot of it's just propped up on leverage.
Yep.
And I think, altcoins always bleed back to Bitcoin and all of them always correct in a bear market. I think the worst is yet to come. I think it's just going to go back to its lows. So
Yeah, but
that's my thought.
before the whole exploit thing, I was considering buying spot of every cash and stuff like that. And I
Mhm.
haven't touched it since it's short, so I don't think I plan on it as well.
Yeah.
So kind of looking ahead, what do you think will be like the next big opportunity, for crypto traders? You think it's still majors, alts, perps, or like on chain like AI agents or something else?
I'm going to take a crazy take here that I've been saying for a long time now, but I've been kind of vocal about on X lately.
Yeah, I'd love to hear it.
I think when this whole bear market is done and we find the low, like we get a 50 plus VIX, Bitcoin finds its low, whatever,
Hmm.
I think you go out and buy a shit ton of ETH.
Interesting. Very, very hot topics.
So ETH and most altcoins have underperformed like shit for the last few years,
Yeah.
rightfully so. Let's walk this back a bit. When Bitcoin is 16K or whatever at the
Hmm.
low, and ETH was still at 2K, right? ETH never really went through a proper like low, and I'd say it honestly underperformed this cycle. And if you go look at all these alts, Zcash, Solana, ETH, you'll just see it. Their all-time highs they hit this year or whatever, it just swept the one from 5 years ago or whatever. Same with XRP, it just swept the high from 8 years ago, whatever it was. That's all they did. I'm serious. If you go pull up the weekly, monthly chart, go look. That it just swept the high. It didn't really do anything significant. Total 3 never went to the range lows. ETH never went to the bottom of its range. You know, ETH I think just recently finally went to the lower end of the logarithmic regression band for it. So
I see.
I think the ETH correction is totally valid. I think the whole ETH team needs a restructure.
Yeah.
But with that being said, all the stable coins from Circle, Tether, a lot of them are locked up on ETH, and there's a lot of real world assets on ETH. And with more TradFi and centralization kind of coming into the space, the scalability of ETH and all the layers under it. I mean, we can think of other layers under it like Arbitrum, Hyperliquid, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I think low key, the amount of big institutions and shit staking on it and just knowing the scalability of the asset, I would be fucking surprised if when all these stablecoin issuers that go on and lock up their shit, if they're back to 1-to-1 by, you know, bonds, whatever, the amount of profitability some of these issues will have, people are going to come to ETH, fork projects, make new shit. I would be absolutely fucking surprised if we did not see ETH go on a face ripper if it can finally go to its range lows at the end of the cycle. I think it goes to its range lows, consolidates, fucking everyone goes, ETH is dead, blah 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 blah, like they always fucking do with every crypto
Yo.
asset, right? Everyone always screams it's dead at the low, right? And that's
Yeah.
why you always see people get so bearish at the bottom before the reversal. That is one thing I use psychologically. When everyone's fucking bearish or everyone's super bullish, I start to do the inverse. And that's probably why I'm right so much of the time and get so much credibility for it, because I know the fucking bullshit to look through. But
Yeah.
like ETH, I think it's mispriced as shit, personally. I think if you can get a discount on it around like 1,100, maybe 900 at the end of the cycle, I
Pumped it.
think you buy the shit out of that and you sit on it for the next 3 years and sell it 3 years out from now. You know, so
You're probably one of the first people I've heard talk about ETH like this. But I've that's bring up a lot of good points. Honestly, I think
dude,
a lot of
everything uses it.
yeah,
Everything uses it.
you're
So
100%
many
right.
different layers, platforms, aggregators, fucking stable coins, you name it. Use ETH or interact it or scale off it some way.
It's very
You know,
true.
and gas fees on it aren't $80 to $300 anymore. They're $1 or less.
The
The
same.
chain moves fine. It works great. It always has. It's just years ago there was a couple issues, and
Yeah.
they've upgraded and fixed a lot of things. You
I
know,
feel like most people now are just kind of, at least if they aren't actually looking at the ETH, are just kind of on the bandwagon of kind of hating on it. So when it gets down to that time and
exactly,
those prices, a lot of people are just gonna mid
exactly.
curve it and probably miss a pretty big trade there.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but fucking the amount of stablecoins Tether has on there, the amount of stablecoins Circle has on there, other issuers too that, you know, we don't have to get into, but like everyone uses ETH. If the biggest players in the space who literally move the prices of things, by the way, like literally move the space, are staking, are locking up on there, are holding assets on there. I don't know, but to me that sounds like that chain probably has a fucking use case still. Maybe. I
I
don't know.
agree.
And now that they can do all these cool upgrades and there's no, you know, like they don't have to support miners and those kind of stuff anymore. Like
Hmm.
I'm sorry, but you know, JPM, Morgan Stanley, fucking Tom Lee, as much as I think Tom Lee is a bit of an idiot, but no one is staking 8 billion plus of assets on there, you know? Like why not go to Tron? Why not go to Near? Why not go to I don't know, what other fucking chains out there? Why are we going to ETH? So
Yeah,
I think definitely the big players somewhere know something, you
that's a
know?
good point. That's
So
a
you don't got to go gamble on some random brand new blockchain that just came out where the dev isn't doxxed and shit. I think standing with your main gold and silver is probably the best bet for long-term compounding.
It's a really good point. It's a very, very good point. I think you just dropped some
Yeah.
really good alpha, and we're gonna look back in this in a couple years. I'm gonna remember this exact moment too.
Yeah.
I talked to you about this, so that's really good though. You brought up some points that I honestly didn't even think about because I don't really look into ETH much. I mean, I don't think many people are
Hmm.
right now today anyway.
Hmm.
But you do have a really good point. It's always
Yeah.
also very, very good to look that far into the future, which I don't think a lot of traders are doing as well.
Yeah. It's like
That's
a lot of
cool.
people think right now Bitcoin price action is terrible. This is long overdue. This was bound to happen.
Yeah.
So it's a bear market. It's doing the exact same things it's always done every 4-year cycle. It's
Yep.
just making bear flags on its way down, and it's gonna go find a low when the VIX goes 50 plus. So
Yeah.
everyone's all panicky, freaking out, and you just can tell who's retail and separated from the big dogs. So
That's crazy.
you know, you just gotta wait and let assets consolidate and do their fucking thing for a bit.
Yeah.
So
100%.
that's it. That's it.
And kind of a lasting question.
Sure.
Do you still enjoy what you do every day trading as much as the first day you started? It's
I would say
exciting.
I love it now more than when I started. I think watching your balance grow, you feeling good about yourself, maybe you help someone else grow. Like a lot of people don't know this. I love to help people in their DMs or if they come to me ask a question. I love to just help people out with shit all the time.
Nice.
The other week, some guy 30 grand or whatever off the Moolong, like
Wow. I mean, you
fucking
just made us some money, man, off your YouTube video. So
yeah, like I think it's rewarding. I think it's fun. I think financial markets are so interesting, especially like I said, the options side of it. I think it's fucking fascinating. So from when I started out trading with a couple $1,000s or whatever to being where I am now, and knowing I've helped people along the way, I've given alpha out for free. I've made lots of friends in this. I've learned new trading techniques. I've learned something new about this index or what this metric means or how this works, whatever. I think it's so fucking fun to dive in and learn about shit. I really
yeah,
do. And that's weird to say for me because I didn't fucking finish high school. Like I hated sitting and learning, but this stuff to me is fucking incredible. I think it's fucking fantastic. I think it's the coolest shit ever. Every day I wake up, I'm like, oh my God, I can make more money today. Oh my God, what new stock is going to go up or down, or
yeah,
how big this candle is going to be. Like, and it's motivating and it's cool. It's cool to, go out for dinner with your mom or something. It's cool to go on a vacation with the profits you earn. Like,
exactly.
I think everyone should, stop thinking like, oh my God, it's manipulated and stuff, and just learn how the thing fucking works. And you're going to see why this is happening at this time or this area. And you're going to be like, oh my God, like, it's fucking cool. Like, and you can capture money off of it, like
Exactly.
it's awesome.
Exactly.
I think it's super intriguing.
I love hearing that. Even just in this brief amount of time of us chatting, I can tell you're an extremely genuine person and super just passionate about this space. And I don't think there's a lot. I mean, obviously there's other people, but there's not that many people like you. I would say that are just
Mm.
willing to even just go into DMs and help people out, or even just like hop on this interview. Like genuinely, if I showed you my DM, oh, it's so bad. I get aired out crazy, all this kind of stuff. So I really
Yeah,
appreciate people like
sure.
you in this space always willing to help others and just provide advice. So it's just truly amazing, man. And I'm big on what you put out there comes back around. So all that good karma and stuff. So it's amazing.
I appreciate the kind words and I appreciate everything you said. That's we're similarly aligned. I
Yeah.
like it.
And I'll kind of give you the stage now to kind of share what you have coming up for yourself, where people can find you on YouTube and X and everything.
Yeah, BigTrout 300 on X, BigTrout Trading on YouTube. Yeah, that's my socials. Next thing for me, I'm waiting to see if we can get into 7700 to 7800 SPX, and I think I'm gonna start scaling in the shorts and hedge the VIX again.
Nice,
That's what's
nice.
coming for me.
Sounds like a plan, man. Sounds like a
Yeah,
plan.
bullish Bitcoin into July.
Bullish Big 100 July. All right, perfect, perfect.
Yeah,
For everyone listening to this podcast as well, make sure to please go share some love with Big Trout. Follow him on his X and his YouTube as well. And this concludes this episode of Trench Talk.